Hello and welcome to the official Wrestle News 365 YouTube channel. Thank you very much for tuning in today for another video. Today we're going to be talking about AEW Revolution, which of course takes place this Saturday. This is going to be a preview and predictions video. Of course, like I said, AEW Revolution, AEW's first pay-per-view taking place in 2020, takes place tomorrow, February 29th. Yes, a leap year. So are they going to do this every 4 years? Doubt it. Before everyone says that, but it's tomorrow night in Chicago, Illinois, from the Wintrust Arena. Chicago, obviously a home bed for AEW. Tony Khan has mentioned that he grew up in Chicago. We had All In, All Out taking place in Chicago. So Chicago's like WWE's New York. It's their home base, along with, of course, Jacksonville, Florida, which, of course, the Khan family owns the Jacksonville Jaguars, the NFL team there. So their main two homes, shall we say, are, of course, Chicago and Jacksonville. So overall, the card looks really stacked, and the build-up to this show's been tremendous. The stories they've been trying to tell have been tremendous. Towards the end of last year, AEW Dynamite, for me, started to become a bit too much, a bit too... it's difficult to describe AEW because it is so polarizing. It really is, in terms of the high spots, in terms of some of the characters, and we'll touch on that later. But towards the end of last year, I kind of was on the fence with AEW, just in terms of it got a bit too high spot heavy. The stories weren't great, but ever since that New Year's Day episode in Daily's Place in Jacksonville, it's just been tremendous, absolutely tremendous. AEW Dynamite, every week it just feels like it gets better and better, and this past week on Dynamite was just an awesome show. We had the Jericho weigh-in, of course, you had the Omega versus Pac Iron Man match, just tremendous. So I really think AEW is making great strides, and it'll be really interesting to see how many people watch, of course, on the back of that horrific Super Showdown main event last night. So there's 8 matches on the card, so let's get into them. The first match will be on the pre-show. There's going to be an hour-long pre-show like there is on every AEW pay-per-view. But this match will have SoCal Uncensored, Frankie Kazarian, and Scorpio Sky with Christopher Daniels against the Dark Order, that being Evil Uno and Stu Grayson. This is an interesting one because Christopher Daniels, of course, has this connection with the Dark Order. They've been trying to hint or make subtle hints that Christopher Daniels may be the Exalted One when it comes to the Dark Order. My opinion, personally, I don't think he is. I think all of that stuff's a red herring. I think the hints that, it could be Hangman Adam Page. I've mentioned this before on the channel, that I think that would be a red herring as well. I think the two most likely candidates at this point would be Matt Hardy. I'm still going to say Matt Hardy is my pick to be the Exalted One. I think he best fits this group well, and I think in terms of his how long he's got left on the clock in terms of his career, and how great a character actor he is, and how he likes to adapt and evolve his character. When you think of Broken Matt Hardy version 1, Big Money Matt, Woken Matt Hardy, all these different versions of Matt Hardy, I think him being the Exalted One would fit perfectly. He, of course, has been teasing this on social media. He has social media wrapped around his thumb, him being Matt Hardy, hinting at maybe he'll go to NXT, or he even put Dear Dr. RKO, which is an anagram of Dark Order. Evil Uno, even in his promo this week on Dynamite, said that all others would be obsolete, or something like that, a hint to Matt Hardy. I think that might have been slightly too on the nose, but I still think it's going to be Matt Hardy. I don't think it's going to be Christopher Daniels. I think they might tease it in this match, but I don't think Christopher Daniels is the Exalted One. I think that goes to Matt Hardy still. And for the record, I don't think Matt Hardy's going to appear on this show. I believe his contract is up. It's March. I don't know if it's the start of March or the end of March. Either way, this show's still taking place in February, on February 29th, of course. So Matt Hardy isn't going to show up on this show. I think it's just going to be further development of the Dark Order and who is the Exalted One. So therefore, I'm going to go with the winner being the Dark Order. I think also that in this match we might have Daniels accidentally cost SCU the match, and then everyone's going, Daniels is going to be the Exalted One. It's going to be revealed as Daniels, and then the Dark Order attack Daniels anyway, and it's not it's obvious that Daniels is not the Exalted One. So I'm going to go with the Dark Order here. Like I said, I still expect Matt Hardy to be revealed as the Exalted One, just not on this show. I think that either comes, if his contract expires at the start of March, I expect that big reveal to come on Dynamite this Wednesday. If it's the end of the March, we're going to have to wait a little bit longer. So Dark Order for me in this one. First match on the main show, we have Pac versus Orange Cassidy. Yes, Orange Cassidy is going to be in his first match in AEW. His first singles match for sure. I don't think he's been in any other matches, has he? I'm not sure. He's just been used as a manager figure for Best Friends. Really interested in this one. I've seen on clips that Orange Cassidy can work. I don't know if he's going to stay completely in his gimmick this whole match. If he does, Pac should just beat the hell out of him, put him in the Brutalizer, maybe then a Black Arrow and a win. But I'm interested. I'm interested to see if Orange Cassidy works. Orange Cassidy is obviously very, very over with the AEW audience because of his character, because he's different. Some of the wrestling traditionalists absolutely hate him and hate everything about his character. They think his character signifies everything that's wrong with professional wrestling. I don't mind it. I think it's a bit of fun. I think it's a bit of fun, and I think he's very entertaining, and I think he's very different. But if he wants to be something else going forward in the company, he does eventually need to work, and he does need to eventually work credible matches, which is what this match could be. So I hope that Orange Cassidy does work in this match. I hope he does try, as Chuck Taylor said on AEW Dynamite this week. But I'm interested. I'm very curious, and I'm sure the crowd will totally be into it. I just hope that they don't go too fully comedy in this match, because I don't think that's the route that Pac should be going down. Pac's just come off a tremendous Iron Man match, like I said, with Kenny Omega, in which Omega won in overtime. They did the Bret Hart, Shawn Michaels angle there. So I don't think coming off that amazing match, Pac should be thrown into a comedy match. If it is even the slightest bit comedy, Pac should shut it down and, like I said, absolutely destroy Orange Cassidy. So, but I'm interested, and it's piqued my interest, and I'm sure, like I said, the crowd will be into it because the crowd loves Orange Cassidy. Let's just hope he works and actually get some offense in. We don't need to see another Brock Lesnar Ricochet match, do we? We saw that last night at Super Showdown. Nevertheless, prediction for this match, I think it's relatively obvious that Pac's going to win this one. The only way that Orange Cassidy could win this one is of a roll-up upset, and I don't think that's really what AEW wants to do. And like I said, Pac did lose the Iron Man match against Kenny Omega on Wednesday, so I think he gets his victory back on a bigger stage here at AEW Revolution by beating Orange Cassidy. Next up, we have the AEW Women's World Championship match. AEW Women's World Champion Nyla Rose is defending against Chris Statlander. These, for me, would probably be two of the females in the women's division that I think have actually stood out the most so far. I've been heavily critical of the AEW women's division. I don't think it's up to snuff in comparison to the likes of the NXT women's division and the WWE women's division. I think they need at least two or three, I wouldn't even necessarily say stars, I just think better workers. You know, I pitched for the longest time that Tessa Blanchard should be in this AEW women's division, but as long as she's the Impact World Champion, that's not happening. There was rumours a while ago, wasn't there, that Io Shirai could jump from NXT to AEW, and what an asset she would be, because I think she's probably the best female worker in the world right now. But Nyla Rose, for me, has been AEW's best female so far. I said for the longest time that I thought she should have been the AEW Women's World Champion from the start. You know, Goldberg is the talk of the industry at the moment after yesterday's Super Showdown show, but I thought that's the push they should have given to Nyla Rose from the start. Just have her absolutely bulldoze and destroy every single female in that division, run everyone down, and then eventually you would have the big money match against Awesome Kong at some point. It would appear now that Awesome Kong can't really go because of her back injury, and she's been off TV for a while, so maybe she heals up from that, and in the interim, Nyla Rose can still do that. She can absolutely mow down the AEW Women's Division, and then eventually we get an Awesome Kong versus Nyla Rose match. I'd be interested in that. I think that'd be a really fun match to see. The quality might not be too good, but I think the spectacle of having a Nyla Rose at the immovable force versus the irresistible force, immovable object. I'll get there eventually. So I think that match would be really fun. But in terms of the prediction for this match, don't see Nyla Rose losing. She's only just become the AEW Women's World Champion. I don't expect them to hotshot the championship straight off of her. And I think she's too good to have such a short title reign. I really enjoyed her promo that she did a couple of weeks ago on Dynamite. I think not only is she great in the ring and is a badass in the ring, but on the mic she was tremendous as well, and talked about, just running through people, and her entrance is awesome as well. She spits fire. I think she's just great. I think Nyla Rose is absolute money. I really do. I think she's absolute money and can be a really big star in the AEW women's division, which is greatly needed at this point, because that's been the low point for me when it comes to AEW. For what's been so good about AEW since it started a year ago, the women's division just hasn't been up to snuff. And I think with someone like Nyla Rose, she's someone you can really strap the rocket to, and she can really help elevate the division. But of course, she needs good opponents, and not to say that Chris Statlander isn't a good opponent. She is. Her work's been pretty solid so far. I'm not massively keen on this whole outer space thing and booping people's noses. I guess that's to people's taste. It's not to my taste, especially when you've got someone as serious and as monstrous as Nyla Rose. So the match itself, I think, should be fine, but I think Nyla Rose comfortably wins this one. Next, we have Darby Allin versus Sammy Guevara from the Inner Circle. Now, the story from this one, of course, has been that Sammy Guevara, all those weeks ago, attacked Darby Allin with his own skateboard, jammed his throat into the canvas with a skateboard. Darby Allin lost his voice, and they've sort of back and forth been doing those promos on cue cards that Sammy Guevara first did, I believe, all the way at the start of the year with the picture-in-picture. He had I don't know if it was him, but he had the great idea of doing the promo picture-in-picture with these cue cards. And ever since Guevara and the Inner Circle injured Darby Allin did his own responses, and I've really enjoyed it. And to be honest, the last 2, 3, 4 weeks, Darby Allin's responses from the crowd just seem to get louder and louder and louder. There is a huge upside to Darby Allin for me. For me, he's a future AEW World Champion. Of course, not now, but they know they're going to be on TNT for 3, 4 more years. At the end of that time, he could certainly be an AEW World Champion. I think he's got all the tools. He's modern day Jeff Hardy. For me, he gives me that sort of that feel, that look of just being different, and I can't think of anyone else that's like him out there now, which is such a selling point. Having that uniqueness in 2020 in professional wrestling is really difficult to do. So obviously the females in the crowd like him. The males in the crowd like him because they think he's cool as shit, which he is. He's getting skateboard into the ring over. His music, it's got that distinctive guitar riff at the start of it, which everyone can pop to. And in ring, he's absolutely solid as well. He's got everything. He really does have everything at the moment. So big things in the future for Darby Allin for sure. I mentioned before that if and when AEW introduce a mid-card title into the company, which I don't think would be that long. I was on a media call with Cody Rhodes back in November, and he discussed not it being his preference to call it a mid-card championship, but there were discussions about bringing in something for people in the middle of the card to fight over, like a championship. So you think of your classic Intercontinental, US Championship, etc. I think when they do bring that in, the first person that bout should go on is Darby Allin. If it's a championship that elevates a talent to the next level, then Darby Allin would be the perfect person to put it on. Or likewise, Sammy Guevara. Sammy Guevara has been a real standout since AEW Dynamite aired in October. Not a lot of people really knew him, and I'm not sure he was fully connecting with that whole wearing a panda to the ring thing. I'm not sure that was truly getting over with the audience. But ever since then, with his allegiance with Chris Jericho and Jericho taking him under his wing, calling him the Spanish God, Guevara's been involved in some great stuff on Dynamite with the Inner Circle. He's sort of gotten over by proxy with Jericho, and then, of course, Sammy Guevara can work tremendously in the ring. A couple of weeks ago on Dynamite, he got his head absolutely kicked off by Matt Jackson of the Young Bucks. That was tremendous, and Sammy Guevara can do that. He can bump really well. His work on the mic, like anyone, probably needs a little bit of improvement, but he's young. Same with Darby Allin. I think they're both like 23 years old, if that. So the potential for both these guys is absolutely through the roof. But I think Darby Allin will win this one. I think at this point, Sammy Guevara, it doesn't matter if he wins or loses. He's going to be part of the Inner Circle, so he's going to be in the spotlight. But for the babyface Darby Allin, if you want to keep that upward trajectory, I think he has to win. And I think after this whole injury redemption, throat redemption thing, he will win this one. And Darby Allin's lost a couple of big matches, remember, as well. He's lost against Cody Rhodes, he's lost number one contender matches, he lost to Jericho in an AEW World Championship match. So obviously he's been elevated by being in those matches with those higher caliber talents, but eventually he's got to start winning those big matches, and I think that starts here. I think he defeats Sammy Guevara, and I think he moves on and continues his feud with the Inner Circle. So up next, we have Jake Hager, Big Hurt, against Dustin Rhodes. Jake Hager, like Sammy Guevara, with the Inner Circle. This is Jake Hager's first match, actually, in AEW. So far, he's just been used as a heavy for Chris Jericho, a silent heavy, only a couple of words spoken here or there. And of course, Jake Hager was part of the people that injured or broke kayfabe, Dustin Rhodes' arm, all those months ago in Dynamite before Full Gear. So this match has been coming for a while, and it would appear that at the end of every Dynamite at the moment, when the Inner Circle was in the ring, Dustin Rhodes comes out to fight Jake Hager. They brawled into the crowd and into the arena last week on Dynamite, going into those damn Dippin' Dots, as Jim Ross would say. So it's interesting, isn't it? Because if this was, 2013 or 2014, and on a pay-per-view there would be Jack Swagger versus Goldust, you would roll your eyes and say, I really don't care. But it's amazing what a fresh coat of paint and a different environment and a different setting will do, because I'm interested in this match. I mentioned it on social media throughout the week when I was watching Dynamite, that I really think Jake Hager, to thrive in AEW, needs to face off against some larger talent. Of course, Hager is, he's like 6'6" or something like that. He's a tall guy. And there aren't many big, and I mean legitimately big, wrestlers in AEW for him to face off against. I think a Jake Hager versus Luchasaurus match is going to happen at some point down the line, and that should be money, because you've got Wardlow. He's not a heel, but he's not a babyface, but he's a heel. So there aren't many of those people coming in, but Lance Archer is coming in. We'll touch on that in a bit. Because let's be honest, even though this isn't the 1980s, you still like to see two big guys going at it. And Dustin Rhodes isn't exactly a small guy as well. So I'm interested in this match. I think Jake Hager wins it. It would seem logical that Hager wins it, even though you would think, is Dustin Rhodes going to get his redemption here? Is he going to get his retribution for having his arm broken by the Inner Circle? Dustin Rhodes at this point, he's in his 50s, I think, or verging on 50 years old. It doesn't matter if he wins or loses anymore, and he's all about elevating this company and getting these younger guys over. Even though you could say Jake Hager isn't exactly a young guy, he's all about getting these people over in the company and elevating the company. So I don't think Jake Hager, the undefeated Bellator fighter, loses his first match at AEW because that would kind of kill off his character straight away, wouldn't it? So I think Jake Hager wins this one, but I'm interested to see how Hager looks and how he wrestles in the ring, if he's going to take a bit more of a shoot style, a bit more of an MMA style. He always did anyway, because he's an NCAA All-American. The All-American American, that was the great name they came up with for him in the WWE, didn't they? So it'll be interesting to see what he looks like, what ring attire he wears, if he got a bit more of a Brock Lesnar style. So really interested to see how Jake Hager pulls this one off, but I think he gets the victory in this one. Next up, we have the AEW World Tag Team Championship on the line. We have Kenny Omega and Hangman Adam Page, the AEW World Tag Team Champions, defending against the Young Bucks, Matt and Nick Jackson. This could absolutely be a show stealer. I've been just really, really enjoying the Kenny Omega Hangman Page tag team ever since they were put together, quite frankly. At the time, I was annoyed that they'd been put together and they won the tag team championship, because as you know, my rule of thumb is that I don't think put together tag teams should be beating established tag teams, but they did this the right way, AEW, in that they had Omega and Page tagged together for a prolonged period of time, so you could actually see that they had chemistry and they knew how to work tag team matches. They became an established tag team, and then they won the tag team championship. And to be honest, I can't think of a bad tag team match that Omega and Hangman Page have had. I love their finisher. The buckshot lariat V-trigger combination, I think, looks awesome. It's bone crushing. I put it on Twitter the other day. I love that finish. So I'm really enjoying this, and I'm really enjoying this new, different Hangman Adam Page character, quite frankly, because I think initially when he distanced himself from the Elite and they told that whole storyline, everyone assumed, and I think the creative intended for this to be a slow turn into darkness, into madness of Hangman Adam Page. Eventually, he would turn heel, and eventually he would turn heel on Kenny Omega, dissolving their tag team and just completely ruining that off. I don't think they intended or realised how over Hangman Page would get as a babyface. And realistically, I think, well, why wouldn't he? All he does every week on Dynamite is wrestle kick-ass matches and then chug beer. So he gets over with the AEW crowd without doubt. He gets over with the crowd at home. And now you could argue that of all four men in this match, Hangman Page is probably the biggest babyface out of all of them. He doesn't care. He chugs beer. All he talks about is after the match he's going to chug beer. They had that awesome sit-down interview with Jim Ross on Dynamite on Wednesday where you had Omega and Hangman Page and you had the Young Bucks there. And then the Young Bucks just flip out on Hangman Page. They talk about how they brought him into the Elite. They made him a star. He was just a jobber in Ring of Honor, and then they made him a star by bringing him into Bullet Club and featuring him on being the Elite. And then Hangman Page is just there sipping his drink and giving some back to the Young Bucks. I mentioned on social media at the time that I felt like the Young Bucks, if anyone, came off as the bitter heels at this point. They even spoke about, Jim Ross touched upon, well, you're the best tag team in the world by all accounts. How come... AEW's been going regular TV since October. They've been doing events since, May of last year. And you're still not the tag team champions. So I think that the Young Bucks really did come off as the heels in that situation. And I wouldn't be surprised if we saw the Young Bucks turn heel here, even though I think originally the plan would be for Hangman Adam Page to turn on Kenny Omega. Now, they might still go with this. They might still stick to their convictions and have Page turn on Omega, but I just don't feel that that's the right way to go now. I think the best way to go is to have the Young Bucks turn heel on Hangman Page. So I'm going to go with a bit of a curveball here. I'm going to say that the Young Bucks win this one and finally win the AEW World Tag Team Championship, but I don't think it's going to be in the way that everyone's expecting. I think the Young Bucks are going to turn to the dark side here and use some nefarious tactics to come out as the tag team champions. So next up we get MJF, of course, with Wardlow facing off against Cody Rhodes with Arn Anderson. The match we finally get to see. We've been waiting on since Full Gear back in, when was it, October, November, whenever it was. There's not really much to say about this match, is there? But the story has just been absolutely tremendous that they've told it on TV. You think sometimes since they had the turn of MJF on Cody and at Full Gear that you start thinking to yourself, well, if the next pay-per-view is in February, you've got, 3 months to tell this story without them really touching each other? That's almost a bit of a challenge today in modern-day professional wrestling because we want instant gratification as fans. We don't have the patience that we would have had, say, back in the 90s or 80s. But they've told the story magnificently. They've had Cody Rhodes jump through every single hoop to get to MJF. They had him take the lashings live on television in front of his family. You had him face Wardlow inside the steel cage. All of it was just tremendous. And I was really impressed with Wardlow in the steel cage match. I thought he did a heck of a job against Cody. And obviously that moonsault off the cage and then the post-show promo was just fantastic. And Cody Rhodes, quite frankly, is probably... It's neck and neck with Jon Moxley as the most over babyface in AEW right now. I'd probably say Cody's probably a little bit higher than Jon Moxley. When all these guys from the Elite and New Japan came over, you would have thought that Kenny Omega is the big star, the big babyface that is going to be in AEW, but so far it's been Cody. I think his promos have been awesome. His matches have been pretty damn good. He's not always been known as the best worker bow to bow. I mean, he's a good worker, but not at the level perhaps of Kenny Omega, and perhaps he still isn't. But in terms of a promo, in terms of connecting to the audience, I don't think anyone's done it better in Cody. And he's literally put everything on the line in terms of trying to get this company over. He's diving off of cages, doing moonsaults. He's getting himself cut open, leaving scars on his body. Without trying to use a pun, he is all in when it comes to All Elite Wrestling. He really, really is. You have to commend him. And like I said, he's the most over babyface in AEW right now. I think it's almost a shame that he can't challenge for the AEW World Championship again, even though it's professional wrestling. Of course, he will at some point. At some point, he will be AEW World Champion, and it will be a huge moment, quite frankly, whenever he does. But in terms of this match, I don't think Cody Rhodes is going to win. I think MJF is going to win this one. I know the story here is that Cody Rhodes, finally gets his revenge, and of all that MJF has put Cody through and his family through and all of that stuff, it would make sense that Cody gets his redemption. But I don't think that's the story they're going to tell. I don't think it flows that linear. I think they're going to probably have another match. I think that match will happen at Double or Nothing, and I think there might be the stipulation of, if Cody beats MJF at that Double or Nothing, he gets his chance to face a world champion in the future. That changes since MJF took that away from him. But if Cody loses, he has to, I don't know, make MJF an EVP, or Cody has to resign, or something like that. I think this is going to be the first match. I don't think it's going to be the last match that they have. So I'm going to go with MJF winning this one by some form of nefarious tactics or heel tactics. But I don't think this is the end of the MJF versus Cody feud. It's a too hot feud to end with just one match at AEW Revolution. So on to our main event. We have the AEW World Championship on the line. Chris Jericho defending against Jon Moxley. Now, this one really is 50-50. In terms of the build-up to this one, I don't think the build-up's been as good as it was for the Chris Jericho-Cody match at Full Gear. There's not to say that I haven't enjoyed the Jericho-Moxley stuff. I just think the whole, you can join the inner circle, you can get part of the company, and then the subsequent, I thought the turn, or the fake turn of Moxley was well done, but it was obvious. And the whole, spike in the eye sort of deal, it's been cool in the sense that it's a throwback to the Dusty Rhodes Legion of Doom thing, Road Warriors thing from the 80s with, or the early 90s, whenever it was, in WCW, of the spike to the eye. That's been cool, but I just don't know if it's been fully believable. They talk about wanting to have a sports-centric, sports-orientated, whatever that means, product, and I just don't think a spike to the eye, wearing an eye patch all the time is totally that. I don't think it almost takes away from the match side of things or the sports-orientated side of things. And I get it's wrestling. I get there's got to be that gaga that goes with it, but I just don't know if I've been fully invested in that. But all of Chris Jericho's segments are just gold in AEW. This Wednesday on Dynamite, he was on fire in the ring in terms of talking smack to the crowd, even though he got the quarterback's name wrong. It's Patrick Mahomes, not Aaron Mahomes. But it was great. Chris Jericho is great in AEW. I mentioned it on social media. The relationship between him and AEW is a match made in heaven because he gets to do what he wants. He has full creative freedom, and that brings out the best Chris Jericho without a doubt. It brings out the best Chris Jericho. And the exact same with Jon Moxley. He gets to be Jon Moxley. He's not Dean Ambrose. He gets to do whatever he wants, say whatever he wants to say, get his input in some of his ideas and get some of his ideas on television. And it's a creative process, and he loves it. He seems happy. People saying, I wish, Dean Ambrose would go back to WWE, or will Jon Moxley go back to WWE one day? I think as long as AEW is successful, I just don't see it. I think Jon Moxley's too happy doing what he's doing. Too happy being Jon Moxley. I don't think he wants to go back into that environment again. I think he's done. He's a big enough star now that he doesn't need to. There's other options to make money. Of course, there's AEW and there's New Japan. And like he said, he'll just go on the indies if he wants. He's happy. Everything's paid off. He's got everything he wants. So a happy Moxley is a good Moxley, and a creatively inspired Jon Moxley is the best Moxley that we can get. So I think the match should be good. They've had matches, of course, in WWE. Their matches were fine. They weren't anything special. I think they'll try something above and beyond that, being that it's a main event of a pay-per-view, and AEW have only had so many pay-per-views so far, so you want to make a big impression, and when your name's on the marquee, you want to make that big impression. So I'm sure they'll go for it. And like I said, it really is a toss-up on who could win this one. For me, there's only two people that should take or could take the AEW World Championship off of Jericho, and it be still compelling and still be as hot, and that would be Jon Moxley or Cody. Of course, Cody can't. He's facing MJF, and he's banned from challenging for an AEW World Championship again, so that would lead Jon Moxley. I just don't feel that Chris Jericho will drop the title to Moxley. I could be completely wrong, and that's something that they could totally go with. I could totally see them having Moxley beat Jericho, and then the next, obviously, pay-per-view is Double or Nothing, and then you could have the rematch between Kenny Omega and Jon Moxley at Double or Nothing. I'm just not sure if they'll do it. I think Chris Jericho's too hot, as the AEW World Champion. The only issue there is, I guess, is that if Jericho does beat Moxley, who does he face next? Who could be considered an actual, real, legitimate challenger to Chris Jericho? I think it's almost a little bit thin on that part, but it's certainly an option. It's certainly an option. And factor in Lance Archer. Lance Archer just signed with AEW, and he had that tremendous feud with Jon Moxley. They had that kick-ass match at Wrestle Kingdom in New Japan at the start of the year, where Moxley defeated Lance Archer for the New Japan United States Championship, which of course he still is the United States Champion in New Japan. So look out for Lance Archer. I could totally see Lance Archer coming out here and attacking Jon Moxley, and then they pick up their feud from where they left off. So that's a definite possibility, and I think that's the scenario that I'm going to go with. I think Lance Archer comes out, gets involved, the pay-per-view goes off the air hot, and the pay-per-view, most importantly, goes off the air with Chris Jericho still as the AEW World Champion. But really looking forward to this pay-per-view. Always look forward to the AEW events, of course, but their pay-per-views, because they're so infrequent, because there's only 4 a year, they definitely do feel special, and they definitely do have this long-term build to them with great stories and great hype packages going into them. So really looking forward to this one. But of course, it's not just about what I think, it's more about what you think on this channel. So let me know your predictions in the comment section below. Who do you think is going to come out the victor in all of these matches? Are you looking forward to the pay-per-view? Will you be watching? Won't you be watching? Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. We're going to try and hit 100 subscribers as soon as possible. And we might do something a little bit special once we do as well. So be sure to subscribe to the channel. Thank you very much for watching, listening, streaming, or however you've come across this video today. I really appreciate it. And of course, I'll speak with you again very, very soon.